What is the grossest hygiene issue you overlooked in an ex? My ex had a toenail fungus so bad that his super long and disgusting crust mobile toe literally cut holes in multiple fitted sheets. Our toilet paper rolls would get poop on them because ye old ex somehow got a poopy hand every single time and then transferred a little bit of it to the roll. Was he doing the first pass with a bare hand? I have no idea. Once he didn't change his clothes for a week, then he took a shower and almost put the same underwear back on. I had to convince him to put on clean undies. Sat on the bed right after a shower, naked. Stood up, and a tire track was on the bed. He had just showered. This happened multiple times. Fuzzy teeth. Anyway, we're divorcing now. Edit to add, all of this started after we got married, and then the pandemic basically turned him into a feral animal. I did not consent to marriage with this level of hygiene. What in everything that is unholy made you marry such a person? Personality alone cannot make up for disgusting shit like this in my head. And the best part is, probably going to regret asking, but what's fuzzy teeth? We both somehow contracted head lice. We both had quite long hair. I washed mine regularly, and he washed his once in a blue moon. Due to this, they liked living in my hair, but liked laying eggs in his hair. So I was literally walking around with an itchy scalp all the time, whilst he wasn't bothered by it at all. I was washing my sheets and treating and combing through my hair every night, second night, in attempts to get rid of those buggers. I kept nagging him to do his head at the same time, but he claimed it hurt too much. He was too tired. He couldn't be bothered, even though I was literally offering to do it for him while he sat there and zoned out. We both had our own separate living arrangements, but spent every night together at each other's places. It got to the point where we'd both had head lice for over 4 months, despite my time-consuming efforts to get rid of them. I finally told him to spend the night at his place and sort it the fuck out as I was staying at mine to wash my sheets and basically marinate in head lice treatment, and that he was absolutely not welcome at my apartment. He got the idea after that, but it took a few weeks. I knew it was fucking revolting at the time, but looking back on it now, it makes me angry. I want reimbursement for all the money I spent at the chemist on night poison. Bro sounds like he became a hive mind. How dirty can you be to have head lice and not even notice? I was late teens, early 20s, and was going to give my first BJ until I noticed the stick didn't look right. Caked on smegma, like he had been rolling in lotion. And the smell! Oh my god. I jumped back. He wasn't even a smelly guy. I just don't think he knew he was supposed to clean there. I never did give him a BJ either. Another one was seeing a guy, but he would never invite me over to his bedroom. And one night his friend dragged me to the room and was like, "Look at this! Do you want this? This is nice! It's disgusting! He's hiding this! I'm trying to help you!" He was flipping through trash to show me how bad it was. Food containers everywhere, trash all over the floor, and I'm pretty sure suspect-looking piss bottles? I ended up dating him for a year, cleaned, gutted his room several times, but it was just too much. I was with a girl that was the same way. It's both a guy and a girl thing. Like, how do they not wash themselves? But I found that her family was really religious and taught any type of touching genitals can be bad, so she never really learned. Someone has to go a long, long time of not washing for that to happen. Basic hygiene in the shower takes care of it no problem. It's easy. It's sad people cut their babies up because they think it will be so difficult for them. The tissue is actually fused to the head until about puberty, so there's no extra cleaning for the parent anyways. That's like cutting the clitoral hood, tissue covering the clitoris, off a female baby to make it cleaner. My long-term ex had questionable hygiene. He showered a lot, but always forgot to wear deodorant and thought it was funny. His oral hygiene was the worst. For context, we started dating when I was 22 and he was 27. He didn't know he was supposed to brush his tongue when he brushed his teeth. And he never flossed a single time in the 3 years we were together. My most recent ex, a very attractive 35-year-old, never brushed his teeth before bed. Literally, not a single time in the 3 months we were together. He stayed at my house for a weekend and forgot his toothbrush and didn't tell me for 2 days. I mentioned I had bought him an extra toothbrush and he goes, "That's good. I was about to use yours." He also got extremely sweaty. I mean, literally was dripping all over me when we had relations. I would take a quick body shower after, but he never would. His bed would literally be soaked with sweat after doing the deed. Later found out he was cheating on me, which is even more disgusting. I also had to tell him to wash his throw blankets BC. They smelled like sweat. I can't imagine how many bodies bacteria was all over those blankets. His sweat also smelled weird to me. The first time we had relations, I remember thinking there was a weird musty PB&J scent. It was him. There have been studies linking tongue brushing to high blood pressure. Apparently it rids your tongue of beneficial microbes. Strange, but true. I didn't know this until much later in the dating and put a stop to it. He always had musty funk shit odor when we were having sex, but he showered routinely, always washed well, and didn't smell otherwise. We showered together time to time and we talked about it. He claimed to not know what was going on with the odor. It wasn't unbearable, but it was definitely noticeable and gross. We're getting frisky in the bathroom. I pull his pants down, he says to let him clean up quickly. That's nice. He picks up a used bath cloth laying in the shower floor and wipes himself down. Crack included. WTF, dude? It was his sexy time washcloth that he admitted to using multiple times in the week to clean with, and then it just laid around in the shower the rest of the time. I hope she brushed her teeth after that. Refused to floss. She claimed the space between her teeth was too tight, so I introduced her to the Glide series from Oral-B, but she still refused. I suggested a water pick since there was no actual flossing involved, and she refused again. Some nights her breath was really bad, to the point where I let her know because I was worried for her health. She took it as an insult and tried to say I was just being a stick. I loved the relationship, but we eventually broke up. The flossing wasn't a factor in this, but it's certainly something that I eventually overlooked. That's some grade A logic on her part. My dentist always emphasizes how important it is that I floss because of how tight my teeth are placed together. The irony also is that the less you floss, the tighter the spaces become since you end up with tartar. Foot fungus. He would reuse the same nasty, crusty socks until he wore holes in them. Same shoes weeks in a row until he wore them down. It's not because he didn't have socks and shoes. He just reached for whatever was closest, and when he took them off the night before, he would roll his socks into a ball and stuff them into his shoes. The next day, there were socks in the boots, so what the heck? Put them on again. No, that's fine. But you gotta let them air out every once in a while. Put foot powder in them. Your feet sweat, and if you don't dry out your shoes, put foot powder in them and change to new socks. You can grow fungus in your socks and shoes quite easily. They are warm, damp, and dark spaces. I walked in on my then boyfriend sitting on the bed with his foot up to his mouth, biting off his long toenails. We were living together and had been dating for 3 years at this point, early 20s. I didn't want to mock him or anything, but how does someone decide that's the right way to handle long toenails? And if he'd been doing it the whole time we were dating, had there ever been a time he'd done that, not washed out his mouth, and then kissed me? Then I dated a guy, again for years, and we moved in together late 20s. Before I found out he was so paranoid, scared of getting diseases from toilet seats that he would squat on the toilet seat with his feet on the rim to poop. He only admitted this because he was really drunk. Seriously, is there a hygiene survey I need to start passing out to exclude these people from my dating pool? He is the one doing the right thing. Put feet under where the sit goes, not on the sit. You don't have to sit where others sit, and the position is so much better for your body. Won't cause unnecessary strain people do by sitting on toilet sits, which can lead to health problems as you age. There are too many articles online telling the benefits of doing it. People from my dating pool? He showered maybe twice a week and changed his underpants even less often. In the summer, I could smell his ass crack. His job was dishes, and he'd leave them for weeks if I didn't end up doing them for him. The only thing I really wouldn't do was laundry, because we had a creeper downstairs I wasn't comfortable around, so sometimes even I ran out of underwear. I left him almost 2 years ago and he went back to living in squalor. His place is all carpet, and he told me recently he vacuumed it once since I left, and that was just because the unit was being inspected. I think in cases like this you should hire a cleaning service. I had an ex who just sweat a lot and sometimes didn't smell the best because of that, but also kind of did all the things to try to improve it, so I had a hard time ever wanting to comment on it. She showered like a normal person, had good hygiene routines, and I think even tried using prescription deodorant. But she was just constantly damp all over and rocking pit stains with occasional BO. I always felt bad, because she seemed self-conscious about it while also taking all the reasonable steps to try to change it. Overall, I don't think it had too big an impact on our relationship. We had a lot of shower sex. This one sounds more like a medical condition versus nasty person at least. Okay, I think I win 28-year-old man who had never been taught how to clean his uncircumcised penis. The smell, for one. The repeat yeast infections and overall health issues I was having led to a talk where he told me nobody had ever taught him how to clean. Thought we fixed that problem with compassionate communication, and he was going to be more conscious of his cleanliness. But one night during lights-off intimacy, I smelled straight-up poop. I went to the bathroom afterward and saw literally a tire track across 3 feet of my bed from this adult's unwashed arsehole. Do you see this? What? Dude, you pooped my bed. No, I didn't. Me in crazy town as the mayor, pointing at the evidence knowing it didn't come from me. Anyway, I got a new comforter. Stayed with this man for 3 years. One day, he went to get us coffee and literally pooped his pants in his car. Came back into my house and threw his pants away and left. No explanation. The reason we broke up is because he and his entire family are mandatory reporters, and their nephew-cousin molested my daughter at our engagement party. It was disgusting they chose not to help either of the children involved. He was re-engaged 4 months after we ended ours. I secretly hope he poops her fancy bed with the lamest live, love, laugh canvas above it. Maybe she was able to potty train both their son and him at the same time. Maybe. You stayed with him after he pooped your bed and his pants? Wow. You do win or lose. Not sure which. No, guys. I had gone on approximately 6 dates with a guy appeared to be from a wealthy family proper preppy type old money, so thinking long-term here. First 3 were normal nice. Then things started heating up the night of our last date. He left his wallet at a bar he was at before our date, so asked me to cover until he could go get his and pay me back. Shit happens, you know, so no prob. Proceeded to order the entire menu, plus many drinks. Eventually decided to go back to his place having one more drink, playing games, etc. Then we go into his bedroom with literally a mattress on the floor with blankets, no actual sheets, nothing else in the room, and a closet full of clothes. Apparently he had just moved in. It smelled a little weird, so I'm thinking maybe old apt smells IDK, but I'm like 100% turned off now. Before I could leave, he starts getting sick and throwing up in the bathroom. So then I go to the side of the bed where there's blankets to grab one for him, assuming he's prob Gene sleep on the floor beside the toilet. I go and lift the left pile of blankets up beside the mattress on the floor and just see piles of throw up on top, and between these blankets, I could not believe my eyes. I go to the other side, and same thing. Apparently, he was throwing up on these blankets and just balling them up and putting another on top. Never spoke to him again, I was so disgusted. Who knows how long they had been there, multiple piles of dried throw up. What you're describing here isn't just gross. You were dating an alcoholic. My ex-wife would not wipe herself after shitting. I don't know what she was thinking. I found out after I initiated sex and told her to get naked and on the bed. She laid in her back and spread her legs. There was shit covering a lot. I told her to shower and I left for a bit. Talked with her and hygiene got better until it didn't. Lots of shit-stained underwear. Didn't last long after all that. The weird thing is, she is beautiful. I don't know what to say. I truly have to wonder if this was a mechanism to get you to stop having sex with her. Towards the end of my relationship, the last 3-ish months with my ex, I was avoiding going to his place because it had become so disgusting. However, I was not in a great place mentally at the time, and I'd convinced myself that I'd never do better, and that he would change his bad habits. I did end up staying one night and noticed a horrific smell in his bedroom. He had a severely infected leg wound that had apparently been leaking blood and pus all over the sheets for weeks. He told me it wasn't bothering him, and he had no intention of ever washing or changing the sheets. He told me I was making a big deal out of nothing. I slept on the couch that night and finally snapped out of it and dumped him about a week later. This was a few years ago, and it's still the worst thing I've ever smelled in my life. It's concerning that your ex had a severely infected leg wound, and the lack of concern for personal hygiene and living conditions can indeed be distressing. It's positive that you eventually recognized the unhealthy aspects of the relationship and made the decision to end it. Oh, here's a small list. It's not as bad as other people's exes, but my ex barely brushed his teeth. I don't even know how often he'd brush his teeth, but it was bad to the point where when we're cuddling in bed, facing each other type of cuddling, he breathes with his mouth open all the time for some reason, and it's directed towards my face, so I get large whiffs of old, sour, stinky breath. And I used to ask him if he's brushed his teeth in them. His response, "Oh, I forgot." And I also had to ask him to close his mouth and breathe through his nose. It was awful. He also had a hard time cleaning his foreskin. He kind of had tight foreskin, but it's fairly easy to clean in the shower because I've seen before, but he'd tell me he's too lazy 90% of the time to clean his dick. So, for example, I'm about to get down and dirty with some slobber action, and the smell of piss hits my nose. Woo-wee, that's an instant turnoff, and sometimes I'd actually see some smegma underneath his tip. This just unlocked traumatizing memories that I forgot I even had. He also didn't wash his hair properly. He'd tell me that his hair looks and feels way better without using shampoo and conditioner for a week and only just water. But it literally looks so greasy and soggy. And he hated how fluffy and soft his hair was when he used shampoo and conditioner. He used to always eat his booger during inappropriate settings, or it's just like, why would you even pick your nose around all our friends are in and eat it? He also picked scabs off his head and ate it. There's a lot here, but what struck me was home eating his boogers in an inappropriate settings. Is there an appropriate setting for this? Oh man, my first serious relationship in college was a doozy hygiene-wise. Man always had greasy hair. I started asking what kind of shampoo he used thinking maybe it was the wrong type. He dumbfounded and said, I just use hot water. So we went and bought him soap and shampoo to shower with, didn't brush teeth cause didn't like mint. Bought him kids, bubblegum toothpaste, and refused to kiss him until he brushed. It got to the point I was breaking out wet wipes during sexy times cause his disco stick always smelled like piss, and the back end always had dried shit on it. And I'm sorry I'm just not touching crusty equipment. We would fight cause he'd get insulted I wanted to wet wipe him down. I finally got fed up and asked if he had a condition, and this is when I found out the man thought wiping was a one and done situation. And he didn't shake his dick off after peeing. So I literally taught that man how to wipe his own arse. I was still getting UTIs and found out he didn't wash his face and his nose was full of blackhead pus. So out comes the Clearasil and pore strips. No wonder I had sunk cost fallacy, because the amount of work I put in to clean that man up was unreal. That one needs to go back to his parents so they can finish raising him, jeez! This one is pretty tame compared to the other ones. We were long distance, and one morning when he stayed over for the night, I looked at his pillow and there was booger stains. His breath stank despite brushing his teeth regularly. The second time he stayed over, for 1 week, he smelled like absolute shit, to the point my mom even smelled him around the house. He wore the same clothes 24/7, and I mean it. Would go to sleep in the clothes he wore during the day, then wear the clothes the next day after sleeping with them on. IDK how many times he would repeat it. Didn't clean his bed sheets for 6 months. Thankfully, I never stayed over at his. Short-lived relationship. Glad I broke up with a narcissist manipulative asshole and learnt that I deserve better. That's it. And if you liked the video, then subscribe and watch the next video.